Hey everybody, thanks for checking out this week's Randall-Reilly review. As you can see, we are still shooting from my home here because we are still working remotely to try to do our part to slow the COVID-19 coronavirus spread. If you were with us last week, we switched up our format a little bit, and last week we were speaking to Jason Cannon, who is editor of CCJ, to talk about how trucking has changed and really approached the coronavirus since all of this kind of broke out. This week I want to do something similar, but this week I want to look at it at more of a driver level. And to help me do that, I have David Hollis, who is editor for Truckers News, and I believe she drives as well. So David, thank you very much for joining me today. I know you're a busy man, and with all this stuff going on, I'm sure you're even more busy than usual. So with that, if you could take us away, what have you seen that has really changed over the past couple of weeks? What are the new challenges that truck drivers are facing, and how are they facing up to it? How are they meeting those challenges?
Well, I think that for the most part, people are meeting those challenges as you would expect of truckers, head on. Most of these folks are used to dealing, kind of having to deal with whatever pops up, be it traffic, be it detention, be it bad weather. They're pretty well suited to adjust and go on with the flow and make changes on the fly. Granted, these are different changes. I mean, we all saw a week, 10 days ago, the 200 trucks line of 200 trucks waiting to pick up. I think that's kind of worked out of the system. There may be some detention now, but not of that magnitude. I think what the truckers I see, that I've heard from, that I've seen on social media, that have responded, they're happy to be out there working, one. Two, they're happy to be doing their part. I think that I've seen a real surge in pride in a lot of these drivers, and I think that's important. I think that, you see all the posts, thank a trucker, and people are. I'm really smitten by the number of people who are showing up at parking lots, that are showing up at fast food joints, that are showing up at big box stores with a card table and a sign that says free food for drivers. And food is one of those issues that has really been difficult. You went from being able to go into a truck stop and sit down and get something to eat to having to get strictly takeout, no matter where. It could be a full service restaurant, but it has to be takeout. And that means being back in the truck for the most part, unless you want to sit outside. And of course, that mealtime is when you get a chance to decompress, maybe talk to others, and now they can't do that. So I think that's one of the things that's been a real adjustment. Similarly, parking. The parking has been, going into this, parking was an issue, and it has been exacerbated because people may not be open to having trucks park where they used to park. There still is that stigma, well, they're all over the country, who knows what they're bringing with them, which I think personally is pretty damn silly. Everybody is traveling. I think that takeout only is a big problem. You hear the sporadic, geez, I couldn't get a shower, I couldn't get into the restroom, had to go to the next area. And that I think is anecdotal. I think the truck stop, if you look at the major chains, those truck stops have really done exceptional work to cope with this issue. I've seen them giving pay raises to all of their people, creating bonuses for their folks, and really adjusting on the fly. And I think it took a little while, but I think that people are the truck stops have really come around to accommodate people. On the topic of parking, I've talked to a number of people. Hey, I've got 400 acres and I'm a half a mile from I-40. Come park your rig. I'll get some porta-johns. No cost, no anything. You've seen a number of those things crop up. So it's the average person on the street or alongside the interstate, as the case may be, that understands the plight of the driver and is responding accordingly, which I think is important, because hopefully that will last after COVID-19 is history, that there will continue to be that empathy for drivers. I think one of the real odd side benefits is that everybody I've seen has talked about, boy, it's weird being on the highway and nobody else is around. So much less traffic, even those terrible choke points, George Washington Bridge crossing from New Jersey into New York City. I mean, even that place, I saw a video that one trucker did crossing, and they had the George Washington Bridge to themselves. They were going over to Hunts Point, the big distribution center there, and they breezed in and breezed out, which is unheard of. And it's kind of a sign, two signs, that one is that things have really clamped down, especially in New York. I'm in upstate New York. I'm about 4 hours from the city, and everything has just kind of rippled, and everything has really come to a standstill there. So drivers going there are going to find a much different landscape, and different regulations. They're being told, stay in your truck. When you're done, get out of town. And that's understandable. New York City is the hotspot for COVID-19 in the US right now, and they need to have real strict guidelines. I think that what's happened is a lot of routines. Drivers have had to adjust their routines, and we all have. But you and I get to get up and walk into the other room, or go get a cup of coffee down in the kitchen, or go and sit on the front porch, or go weed the garden. The drivers can't. They're pretty well locked into their space and their routine. I think most of them that I have seen and talked to and heard from, they're getting really, really good support from their home companies, dispatch, safety, execs. I think that there is really good support. I have to tell you, I spoke last week with a guy. He's the CEO of Western Flyer Express, Randy Timms, out in Oklahoma City. And there was a group of small grocery stores in small towns, not big places that are easy to get to, but those far-flung places. And there was a grocery distributor that wanted to get stuff to them because, frankly, the shelves were bare. This is the CEO, still holds a CDL, got a truck, made the pickup, made the deliveries all over Oklahoma to these little small towns. Now that tells me that hopefully the drivers are seeing the CEO step up and do this and really understand the seriousness of this. So I think that the driving corps, they may be a little sore, maybe even physically sore, from the new demands that are being put on people. But they've seen the rest of the industry respond. They've seen regulations loosen up, and that's something that everyone has complained about all along. They've seen the police, the DOT inspectors, backing off, saying, hey, you've got your job to do, just be safe and go. And I think there are a lot of those kind of animosities that are being tamped down. Like early on, there was a small police force in Southeast Alabama that made it a point to truckers. You're going to a fast food place and you can't walk up to the drive-through, call our department, we'll give you a ride through it. So these are cops. You know, the cop trucker antagonism is as old as wheels are. And then you've seen it multiply. Other police departments elsewhere doing the same thing. And I think that that's a good sign for the country as a whole, but also for truckers. Also see McDonald's. I mean, you're talking about a mega corporation that within a week of things getting extremely serious, adjusting their app so it becomes a trucker-friendly app that you can go on, order your food from McDonald's, pay for it. You go around, they have a special sign where just for truckers only, and then they'll bring your food right up to you. So you get assigned your number and they'll deliver it to you standing outside. a big corporation like that making a change of that magnitude on the fly is pretty impressive. And I think I hope that truckers appreciate that. You know, you also see other big chains. I saw some stuff from Olive Garden, Texas Roadhouse, some companies like that that are also willing to do more on behalf of the truckers, discounts, some freebies in some instances. And so I think that the infrastructure is trying to respond to the need. And I think that that's important. And I think, honestly, I think the truckers are responding in kind, that they'll remember these kindnesses and consider going back.
Yeah, you know, you bring up some of those good stories like McDonald's. I hadn't heard about McDonald's yet. I believe I read on Truckers News about I think it's Eufaula. Is that the police department that did that?
That's one, yeah.
I think we actually featured that on a story on Randall-Reilly and linked back to you guys too, because that was such an interesting story to me. It's always good to hear about the good things that are happening when the world is going crazy.
And there are excuse me, there are more and more of those, and they may seem small, but these are individuals that are doing what they can, and often that is a small act of kindness, and maybe it's for one trucker or a couple. At least it's happening.
Yeah, definitely. Any time, especially, you know, in times like these when you can try to focus on the good, it's really great. And I have seen a lot of that good feeling type of stuff and being thankful for truckers going around. I think you touched on it a little bit with, you know, talking about different truck stops and the showers and stuff. Now, I had seen that a lot of them were maybe limiting their dining rooms and not doing the dining rooms and stuff, but I haven't really heard about the showers and their normal kind of services. Has there been any limitations on that, or what are the truck stops doing in order to try to get the truckers the services that they need? Because, I mean, they still have a shower, they have to eat, and, you know.
Absolutely. I think early on, say 10 days ago, everybody was trying to find their new normal, what they had to do to deal with this, because it kind of came up rather suddenly, although, you know, we watched it unfold overseas for how many weeks. Anyhow, but I would give the major truck stops, the big three, good grades for their response. They've improved. They're paying their people more. They're paying, don't call it hazardous pay, but they're paying them more, $2 an hour more. Managers are getting bonuses that they otherwise wouldn't because of the situation. They've adjusted, I think, admirably. They continue with, they've stepped up all of their cleaning procedures. I look at all three of they all have COVID-19 pages now. Everybody does. And you look at that, and they've upgraded all of their cleaning, their routine. I wish I could remember which one it was, but they clean with hospital grade cleaner their showers after every use, not twice a day, but after every use. It slows things down, but it ensures that people are properly cared for. I think all of them have really taken to heart the whole message of, you know, less contact. Yeah, the dining room is closed, but we're going to get you takeout. It may not be as easy as it was. You know, little things, you know, drivers, you know, have their own cup. They come in, they fill up their cup, and they get a discount from these places, and they leave. They had to stop that. You couldn't bring in your own cup anymore, and that, you know, ruffled a few feathers. Of course, it was different, but now, you know, you can take a clean cup and you still get your discount. It's not going to cost you more because you took a cup. And I think those kind of little things really help. I think that they've all stepped up in terms of their cleaning procedures. I think there was one where there was a reported case of a truck stop person that was diagnosed positive with COVID-19. You know, they shut that entire truck stop down, doing a top to bottom heavy duty cleaning, and will reopen when it's safe. So I think they've taken it very seriously to heart. They have to.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where truckers, they rely on. They have to have these services. I think it was great. NATSO, the association, trade association for truck stops, they went very public and said, we will be there for truckers. And if you're there for truckers, you're there for the rest of the country. So I think that people have responded well in those terms as well.
That's good to hear, because I know that even as late as last week, I think when I was talking to Jason, Pennsylvania had just started to move back on opening up some rest stops. And I know there was some pushback at some of the truck stops and stuff. And I know it was kind of a crazy time where everybody's trying to find the footing and what's the best way forward, but you can't just cut people completely off, especially our truckers out there. They need those supporting businesses and they need those lifelines to help them through.
And it may be, to the rest of the world, it may be, a slab of cement where you can stop and park for the night. Sounds simple, but it's so important to drivers. And to have those taken away, like, I think Pennsylvania overreacted and then said, holy crap, we can't do this, and then backpedaled from there. And I think it's big government reacting and then having to undo some things, walk back, as they say in Washington. And I think that Pennsylvania, PennDOT, they got really beat up last winter over how many times they shut down truck travel because of the weather, and they adjusted. They came up with whole new protocols for when they closed the highways. And this winter there was a lot less of that. They really made an effort to keep trucks moving. And I think that after they shut down those rest areas, and they heard from truckers, they heard from the Pennsylvania Motor Truck Association, they heard from everybody that they needed them back, and they relented. It's different, but it's there.
Yeah.
And the thing that struck me was, in the midst of that, you have the state troopers, the State Highway Patrol out in Iowa, opening up the weigh stations out there, the scale houses, just for parking. No inspections, no weighing, come in, park, no questions asked. You have access to the facility, you have access to the vending. The place is a parking place for truckers. And I think that for every time the pendulum swings over here, it swings back over here, and hopefully stays more over here.
Yeah. And, you speaking of that, the pendulum kind of swinging and hopefully staying on one side, I've been a little curious. Obviously, I don't think some of these regulations have been lifted in order to let truckers get medical supplies and things through faster and more efficiently. So I don't think those types of regulations are going to remain lifted. But is there anything, whether it's from a regulation standpoint or whether it's from the way truck stops themselves operate or how fleets interact with their drivers, do you think there's been any sort of changes that have been enacted as a response to this that are going to stick around with us after all of this is over and done with?
Gosh, I hope so. I think that I don't foresee the FMCSA saying, okay, that's over, back to everything business as usual. However, in the pipeline is that adjustment. It's still at the White House. And that, I'm guessing, is on hold until the whole COVID-19 thing passes. I don't see those things happening. I think, hopefully, regulatory bodies, trucking associations, individual fleets will say, geez, from this we learned X, Y, Z. How do we make that continue? Is it possible for it to continue? I've seen, some states have lifted or increased the weight limits from 80,000 to 100,000 pounds that they can carry if they're carrying relief supplies. Is that going to stick around? Probably not. I mean, it's so difficult to enforce in an open situation as opposed to this kind of restrictive one that we're in now. I think that the relationship between truckers and truck stops will also adjust. I think that you see the independent truck stops, what they're doing, and they're very pro-trucker. They're always proactive with folks. And for these folks, they don't have a corporation backing them up. They've got to worry about their 28 employees or 56 employees or whatever it is, and do all of this cleaning and all of the support and all the adjustment themselves. I hope there's no shakeout of those in light of this, but we see other restaurants closing, so who knows? I hope that in all of this turmoil that we're in, someone is making notes on the side saying, okay, when things get back to normal, this is a really good thing to do. And maybe it could be the shower cleaning. Maybe it is the cup fill ups or whatever. I think the one thing that someone somewhere must address is this not being able to walk up to a takeout window. I mean, that to me, that is borderline nonsense. Given the situation, no, not everybody is going to do it. If you're a truck driver and you get out of your truck and walk over there, they should serve you. It's nonsense, not to be able to do that. Just my take on things.
But, no, I'm with you. That seems really ridiculous, especially in a time like this.
It's really petty in this time of need. I hope that some of the changes will persist. It would be nice to see the appreciation for truckers continue. I think that's important. I think the fleet carrier dynamic. I think you'll see maybe better connections because things are working as well as they are right now because people are communicating. People are aware of what everybody else's situation is, and people are saying, I don't think anybody is making unrealistic demands. I could be way off on that, but I think that I haven't seen as many instances of people being badly routed on trips, or that they're waiting a long time, not because of a backup at the shipper or the receiver, but because they got bad information. I think that truckers are really trying to do the right thing. You see a lot of truckers helping truckers. I think that, if anything, I think that will be what persists after this, is that maybe the bonds will strengthen, and that's not just, oh, we need to go back to, I'm so tired of people talking about old school. It's old for a reason. But I think that the mix of the driver pool out there today, I think they want to connect and be helpful. You don't start a Facebook page and say, let me help you find parking because you're some kind of jerk. You do that because you have a good heart. I think there's a lot of good hearts out there. The other thing that I have seen less of is a lot less of the sniping, a lot less trolling kind of activity, a lot less posting of unflattering memes, that sort of thing. And maybe it's just because people don't have time or are too tired to do it, but whatever the reason, I think that has backed off.
Yeah, well, I hope that if something does stay from this, I hope that you are correct, and it is the kind of the appreciation between the fleets and the carriers and the drivers, and even just the average public, the everyday person. I hope that appreciation and realization of what truckers do for them is the thing that sticks around. It is good to see everybody coming together, because doing research, it always seems like if there's a problem that truckers have, it's either pay or respect. They don't feel like they're respected. They don't feel like their fleet treats them right. They feel like they're just a number. And especially at a time like this, you can't have that. Like you've got to know that you're appreciated when you're out there literally putting your health on the line to serve the public. So it's nice that people are trying to come together. David, I thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I think we've covered a lot of really great stuff. I know you're probably very busy, but before I let you go, I know you covered a few things like you follow a police department and just talking through a few things where people are doing some nice stuff. Maybe I'd like to end on a really good note. As there's an awful lot of bad news going around out there. Is there one story that really sticks out to you of either something that a fleet has done for their drivers or something that you've heard the public do for drivers? Or is there something that really sticks out that during this crazy time is just kind of like, man, that's a really feel good story that's happened that you know of?
Yeah, found out this morning, and this is, I like this for a really good reason, because, big companies get knocked, hard a lot of the time for not doing things for people, that they're only in it for the bucks. But I saw a really good story. The grocery store chain, Meijer, it's in the Midwest, a lot of stores in Michigan, Wisconsin, I think, Minnesota, that area. Saw online that they had set up, that they had, a lot of their vendors had donated products, and they had set up this huge spread of food for drivers. And that when drivers came in to deliver, they had free run of all this food. It was set up, it was clean, it was nice, it was delicious, it was delightful, and drivers had a chance to get something to eat and rest and relax. And it was done by this big corporation that, you don't especially see that happening. And the other thing is I think the better part of this is that the truckers responded. They were so appreciative of this. And was it a huge cost to Meijer? No, absolutely not. However, it was one of those things that they could do. Someone said, you know what we should do? And management said, do it. And the truckers are the beneficiaries of it. So I think there's probably a lot of that going on that just never burbles to the tops or gets a headline or something like that. But I would say that really kind of, because the drivers are so subject to the whims of the loading dock. You're too early, you're too late. Well, we're backed up. It's going to be 3 hours. Can't take you tonight. We'll, find a place to park. And here is a receiver that said, "Come on in, have something to eat. You're all set. We've got you covered." So I think that was I saw that this morning, and that was really a nice way to start the week.
David, thank you for joining us. If you're watching us today, I thank you for joining us. Check back in with us next week. We'll try to have some more content for you. More than likely be shooting from right here in my beautiful home studio, aka my living room. Everybody stay safe, keep social distancing up. Let's flatten that curve, and we'll see you all again next time. Thank you.
I'm going to go wash my hands.
Yeah, wash your hands.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, David.